All right. Welcome to an episode of On Location with Sean Martin, which is not here, and Marco Ciappelli, which is me. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty, and I know that Sean was looking forward for to this conversation as he was with us last year, because I gotta say it's that time of the year, and I'm not talking about the holiday, although we're close to that. It is the time of the year that we're getting close to CES in Las Vegas. It's been happening for decades at this point, as we discussed also last year. And Sean and I have been covering the event for a few years now. In particular, it's not much about cybersecurity like other conference that we cover, but you can't, and I'm sure we'll touch on this, Brian, you cannot talk about technology without talking about security. And we were kind of having that conversation right before we started recording. So here we go. Brian Comiskey.
We got it.
Did
We
it
got
good?
it. We
Okay,
got it.
cool. And you are a big player for CS in deciding what the conversation, the themes are going to be as the Senior Director of Innovation and Trends and resident futurist at the Consumer Technology Association. So that's a big responsibility. And it's a big honor and pleasure for me to have you on the show to talk about the upcoming event. So
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be back. I loved our conversation last year, and yeah, you're right. It is an honor to be able to think about the show in such a unique way and thinking about how these trends will shape up, not just from the companies coming there, the attendees speaking on stage, but how they impact the rest of the year. I think that's why the timing in January is so great. It sets the tone for the rest of the year in terms of technology trends. So yeah, honored to be here, honored to be a part of this industry, and yeah, this will be a fun conversation.
And you know what? It's getting more and more fun and more mind blowing every year. I mean, every conference that I cover, either is just cybersecurity or something related to a more specific aspect of technology. It may be, smart cities. It may be health tech or whatever it is. It's kind of like, wow, that's great. And then I'm like, oh, wow, that's scary at the same time, right? So, and you have to look at every angle pretty much. That's what CS is. There's not just one focus, it's everything. So, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I think it is a massive tent to your point where we bring in mobility, smart cities or smart communities, rather, artificial intelligence, digital health, all these different technology categories, and really reflecting that truly any company can be a technology company because we're in a stage in enterprise and in consumer interactions where technology underpins our daily lives in whatever facet we're interacting with. So it's great that CS is a platform to showcase all those innovations across the board. At the same time, I actually think our theme this year for the show with Dive In is a really accurate portrayal of how this works, where it might be a big tent, there might be all these different technologies there, but the point of the show, whether it's going to the exhibit or getting business done, which is what a lot of our attendees are doing, where executives are meeting, making deals, or media experiencing these technologies firsthand and seeing authentic innovation in person. That's the trade show proposition right there. It's about diving in even further. So it's not like it's surface level, all these different technologies. It's you can dive deep into, well, okay, AI is a lofty term in space, but there's AI for consumers, enterprises, for different applications, whether that's digital health or consumer electronics. That's the real crux of the show at the end of the day. And that's what's so much fun to be a part of.
Yeah, and I think you pinpoint something that I always think about when I talk about CS because it is in the name. It's consumer. A lot of the events that I cover about cybersecurity and technology is B2B. So it's something where you talk about company talking to other, and sometimes I feel like they tend to forget the human aspect and the society aspect and how we interact with technology. I know there is a reminder nowadays way more than before. It's not just it's technology. No, now it's ethics, it's philosophy, it's humanity, it's society, and all of that. And but for you guys, it's that it's you kind of need to translate that to the users in a way.
Yeah, it's human-centric innovation, and I'll be clear too. It's we just go by CES now because last year's show we saw 40% or so of our exhibitors had some form of enterprise solution. It really isn't just because humans are not just consumers. They can be patients, they can be laborers, they can be a lot of different things at once, and that's the beauty of why it is CES as a platform. And when we talk about dive in, it's, well, then what are the returns on investment from a technology? How does it improve my day-to-day life? How do I co-work, collaborate, coordinate, cooperate, coexist with different technologies on a day-to-day basis? And that's, I think, the story that has really emerged in the last few years. There's that old phrase of digital transformation. I say old for a reason. We've transformed. You and I are recording digitally. We have a physical life where we're sitting, I'm in my apartment, you're in your home, but we're virtually right now interacting and able to communicate on video and audio. And that's just a small segment of what people do now on a day-to-day basis, whether it's, hybrid work, hybrid school, omni-channel commerce, where they're shopping in stores and online. We live very physical and digital existences simultaneously. And that doesn't happen as seamlessly as it does unless you have technologies underpinning that. And that's AI plays a major part of that, but so does cloud computing, so does cybersecurity, of course, and then all the applications that come out of it, like digital health, mobility, even energy applications as well.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the digital transformation, because as soon as you said dive in, I feel like that's the moment where you say, look, there's no going back. There's no and I thought about digital transformation when we 3-4 years ago we were talking about, are we gonna do this? Are we gonna get wet in the water? Now you're saying, no, dive in, because there's no going back, right?
It's digital coexistence is probably the better term for it. It's you live in that field. And digital transformation was a great process. I'd argue it started probably in 2008 with not just the smartphone, but also cloud started taking off, and now. Everyone uses the cloud to a degree from an enterprise. Most times they're using multiple cloud solutions. So when you look at the show, you'll certainly see we have Microsoft's, Amazon's, and Alphabet's, the hyperscalers will dare talk about data, but then it's about the companies that are, what's the next layer? How do you CES, how does an AI company talk about agents for AI? It's not about apps anymore. It's about the agentic economy. There's a company, Chatbase, that focuses very much on that type of work. And those are the compelling exhibitors, but also stories showcasing to whether you're attending in person or you're reading about it at home on the show. This is a shift that's already happening. And CES is really, I think, the benchmark every year of saying where we're at in a process of whatever the next era of innovation, be it, whether it's coexistence or formally transformation.
Yeah, and you can say coexistence, of course, and we understand that, but it's also integration of one with the other, right? We were joking about the beginning, technology and cybersecurity. You can't talk about one without the other. If you do, especially if you talk about technology without cybersecurity, you're really missing a point. You're not going to get the grade A type of device if it comes to health, if it comes to communications or anything, and infrastructure. Government. You guys have space. You have so much, and I feel like now it's you have to divide it in certain area because you have, but you can't think about one without the other. So tell me about how you approach CES, this angle.
Yeah, certainly. And you're right. It's convergence in a lot of ways. It's how do technologies converge and meet and to explore. And I think a really good example of this story in action is in previous show years, if people have gone, you usually would find digital health exhibitors at our Las Vegas Convention Center campus over in North Hall. They'd be there showcasing great innovation. This year, they're actually going to be on our Venetian campus because CES has around 2.5 million net square feet. It's a massive space. The reason we do in Vegas is because they have the physical infrastructure to support all the exhibit space and then the hotels for all the attendees. Digital health is moving to the Venetian campus alongside smart home, food tech, accessibility, lifestyle tech, smart home, all of it really reflecting that if you think about those technologies in particular, a lot of them are taking on, and intentionally by the part of them getting better is that they are getting more intelligent. They are understanding the data that the user is providing, and then it's about how does that data converge across these different ecosystems. So good example is a lot of people wear wearables, and where they get, originally it was just steps and it was maybe calories by what food I'm logging. Mm-hmm. Now it's my wearable can also connect to my smart home device, whether it's like a temperature management solution for my smart thermostat or maybe a smart mirror. There's a company, Barracuda, their smart mirrors can help detect for like your mood. And there's a mental wellness component. That's a reflection of these technologies are all converging together to get smarter at communicating your data so that you really start to get that personalized imprint of, well, how do I live healthier, better, and longer? It's a longevity story. And so when you talk about how you build technologies or where they exhibit next to each other, there's a thematic sort of presence. So when I look at the Venetian campus, in my mind, it goes, oh, it's the story of longevity or tomorrow's living. Mm. And it's not just about digital health devices. It's also about how they interact with your home and how they interact with even your fitness and wearables. And so there's a remarkable convergence that you see physically occurring on the show floor, but it's reflective of what's going on in that technology, because you can add all the AI you want to these devices, but data is the language through which AI communicates it. Chips are brains, and the data behind it is the language it uses. The data has to get organized and structured in such a way that it moves seamlessly through these ecosystem environments. And that's the part where a lot of the device manufacturers, a lot of the solutions makers, they're thinking through that. And then there's even companies that Tuya is going to be on the show floor. They're building an AI platform that just coordinates all your smart home devices. Especially because you think so many are made by either Google, Amazon, Samsung. How do I coordinate all of those? You either standardize it, manufacturers, and CTA has done a lot of great work here to help create some of the standards around building a device. But another approach is, well, maybe I innovate and create a software layer that communicates all of these devices together. So that's the other beauty of CES as a platform, is you see all the different pathways to innovate and improve lives.
Yeah, I like it because it's not just a display, but it's an active connector, and an idea and company get to talk to each other, see what the next new product is, either brought by the big company or from the startup that maybe will get acquired because they have such a great idea, or maybe will be that great on his own. But I think the point of, I'm a Mac guy, always been. And so Mac environment. I didn't even think about putting Google in my house, but it's not because I think Google is not good. It's because I wanted to work together with other things, right? So that idea of, do we need to be exclusive and just mono brand in a way, or can we get the best out of everything that really works for us? So that's a great point.
Those are all the types of discussions that certainly occur on the floor. And like I mentioned at the top, CES is where business gets done. The average exec at the show has about 29 meetings in the course of the 4 days of the show. And then to your point about the partnerships that brought up to my mind, there's one that I think about a lot is L'Oreal, who was at CES 2024 as a keynote and in the beauty tech space. Large brand, right? This is a massive conglomerate in that space. There's a 3D printing company that we have the show this year on the floor. They're both going to be at the show. One of L'Oreal, I think, in a meeting room, and Prinker is a 3D printing company out of Korea. They focus on, originally it was more temporary tattoos printing, which I find really cool. As someone who enjoys tattoo art. But they partnered with L'Oreal on their new custom brow designs, because Prinker has this 3D printing expertise. L'Oreal has a pretty good XR, augmented reality, virtualization technology. And these are two companies from different countries, different sizes, finding a partnership to say we can make a pretty good technology or a product here. And I think that's encapsulates in my mind when I think about, well, what do I look forward to at CES? As attendee, it's what's that story after that comes out of people meeting, and that's a tale as old as time. I'm a gamer. In the 1990s, the Diablo franchise doesn't happen for Blizzard unless they meet at our old CES Chicago show.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's one of my favorite parts of the show.
Yeah, for sure. And so your job is, I remember last year we were talking about how, you have to literally, I mean, it's in your title, futurist, which is a really cool title and a big responsibility because, it's easy to fuck it up. It's like, I think it's going to go there. But I remember you were telling me that, of course, there is a large team that work with you, a lot of research, a lot of inputs, and then together a lot of experience that you have from the prior year. But technology moves so fast now, right? I mean, 3 years ago, you could tell me about generative AI. I just saw the update last night that I can use the camera now in beta version of ChatGPT, and it blew my mind. It's like, this is Star Trek, but even more. So this fast pace of advancement, and every day there is a news. I mean, doesn't it make your job so much harder or more exciting? I mean, how you feel about that, you and the team?
It makes it fun and exciting. I guess for me, it's the personal side is like I don't like doing the same over and over again. I think that's what draws a lot of people to the space. I think people forget how creative technology is at times, and then I'm very lucky to work in our research department at CTA, and then also even outside of our departments, just our staff is brilliant here. And I always say I work with some of the smartest people I've ever worked with in my life, and part of it is just always keeping track of, like, for us, like when we look at the research approaches, we do primary research, so we're getting sentiment, we're getting understandings of how consumers perceive technology. We do a lot of secondary desk research, though, around companies and in terms of what they're doing for the latest innovations. I oversee a partnership we do with NASDAQ on thematic stock indexes. Those are long-term investments when the indexes get licensed out for funds. So you have to think in the long term about technology and future-proof something that you're building. And I think that's some of our best, because you're doing market share research, you're doing patent research, and at the end of the day, innovation follows just two paths that, like, if you want to boil it down to something very simple, is innovation is either evolutionary or revolutionary. Revolutionary, that's the hard one to predict. That's those leaps overnight that happen that make something, a new field, feel like it's real for the first time. A great example is you have, I think at the end of 2022, you get nuclear fusion ignition is repeated for the first time by the Department of Energy. Since then, there has been a 300% workforce increase in nuclear fusion private sector. Right. And now you have Amazon, OpenAI, and Google and others talking about investing in nuclear for a lot of their AI and the power demands that are there. And traditional fission works, but fusion now seems like a reality. That's revolutionary.
Yeah.
The part that we track really closely is the other one, evolutionary. That means iterative. And so it's trying to understand how a product or a device will change over time and really grow and build out. What's the next feature? And a good example at CES is actually in television. When we look at a TV, we usually will say it's a great entertainment device. It still is, always will be. At the last show in CES 2024, it was about, we're adding AI chips on board. That's on-device AI. What you have to think about in my role and in others on my team is, when you put AI, what does that do with these latest generations for the TV? What does the TV become as a result? So what's the next step? Sure, it's better visuals and better audio. But then with processors on board, and you see this already happening with Prime. You can pause an episode on Prime Video and you get the IMDb information of who's an actor in the scene. The logical next step is, I can get more information. What's that information? I pause a scene and I really like what the character is wearing in a scene. Well, now the AI processor on board lets me see and look at what the shopping brand is. And then the power and processing potential lets me maybe even buy directly while watching the show. So I can look like my favorite character. That's the type of advancement. That's evolutionary. We're building step by step in process by adding better camera features. It's not just about biometric authentication of I need to do a software update on my TV. It's also that camera can be repurposed with a thermal imaging to do telehealth appointments. Displace, who has been at CES many times, that's the things that they're focusing on. The TV becomes something more than entertainment. It becomes the smart home command center. And so that's the type of stuff that there's always going to be surprises, but you have to think out of the box of an announcement a company makes. They're playing the long game. They're not playing to just, this is one use case we're going to do. What's the third order use case for this in the future?
Yeah. I remember the time where we will buy a software and I would be thinking, and I'm in the 90s, right? And you would be like, yeah, they're selling me 3.0. I know they already know what is going to be 7.0. They're just, it's not ready maybe, or maybe it's a marketing operation, whatever it is. But here now, what you're describing, it's funny because sometimes I read the news and I think, oh yeah, that's totally feasible. I didn't think about it, but now that I know that there is the technology out there to do that, and that's right. It's the long run, but also hard to predict exactly what that is going to be. Like I was reading and having chats about how hundreds of years ago you could easily predict that what would be in the next 100 years. Yeah, maybe an evolution of, I don't know, the weapons or the way that we cultivate and, maybe improvement, right? Like you said, evolution, small step. Now, honestly, can you predict what is going to be 50 years or 30 years from now? Like, I'm imagining robots are going to do crazy stuff.
You are right. You're thinking in that way with robotics. That's what I was talking about this. I've been talking about this all week about robotics, actually. Like AI is the infrastructure that allows robots to go from input A, output B, right? Simple, like rinse and repeat, which is great. That's what robots are designed to do initially. But what allows them to maybe go from input A to outputs B through infinity is having AI learning. That's certainly one. And that's the reason that people focus so much on AI too is, and there's a lot of use cases that are happening today. And that's what I'm excited about the show being about, showcasing digital twin technology that helps factory design today, or drug discovery that's already happening today. These sort of solutions occur now. But what does AI set and build the pathway to the future for? That infrastructure of data processing speed allows for simulation. What does simulation, if you create an AI ecosystem on a cloud environment, do? It lets you test for quantum computing, even if you do not have a quantum computer. So if you ask, like, what a lot of people expect is 2020s will be defined probably by AI in many ways, maybe GLP-1s on the biopharmaceutical side as things that rapidly transform ecosystems. AI paves the way for the 2030s, which is about quantum. At the end of the day, is how do you get to that process speed, which has implications for security, how we communicate, how we use sensors. And I say quantum intentionally, not quantum computing, because there are many quantum technologies. Quantum sensing already exists to a degree. Bosch, who's at the CES, has showcased that some of the quantum sensors that they're using today for more precise measurements of heat and other pressure systems. Quantum communications is probably all further away because you need quantum computing to get there. That's about how do you transmit and communicate in quantum entanglement. Post-quantum cryptography, though, the cyber element, there's already NIST standards, and the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the US is already developing standards for it, recognizing that, and I'm thinking this way, countries are thinking this way too from the quantum side. I think it's very clear that that's the next phase. And so you think about it, then that's, again, the second order. You start with AI. What does AI unlock if you have better processing and discovery capabilities to simulate human creativity as much as possible, right? Because we can only process so much data as humans. There's 2.8 quintillion bytes of data produced every day. that's impossible for humanity to parse through. So you need AI to do it. By getting to that synergy, and you use the buzzword, but synergy there between human and AI, that's how you get to quantum, which then only accelerates it even further. And what's beyond quantum, that's where you get into, I think, where I always looked up to sci-fi writers when I was growing up, because a lot of them ended up thinking like Star Trek. There's a reason people still talk about it. It's they were thinking through what the future looks like. And so I'm trying to think what's beyond quantum, and I think that's nuclear and zero latency being bigger areas. So yeah, that's the fun stuff.
You'll open a door, you're in another dimension.
Yeah.
Like, forget about taking a plane, you know? Wow, this is incredible. I'm very excited. But let's bring it back to the last couple of minutes, and thank you for staying even longer than what we planned.
Great conversation.
You know, man, I could talk about this all day. That's how crazy I am, and you're right there with me.
Always.
A couple of points about what 2025 CES. So I know keynotes wise, you're gonna get NVIDIA CEO. You have a lot of keynotes from many companies of biggest
Delta,
company,
Volvo Group, Panasonic, Sirius XM. Really, really excited to see that whole range, right? It's
NASA and space and all of that. Yeah. And how about any new technology from a startup or two that kind of make you think like, well, that could be the next trend?
Well, I think that's the beauty of, and you're someone who has been to CES, and for those who haven't, we have a whole startup pavilion. It's called Eureka Park. It's in the Venetian campus, and it's hundreds of companies that are there showcasing innovation from pretty much any technology trend that you can expect. A lot of it, too, is countries bringing pavilions of companies that come from their designation. And so I think you'll see a wide range in some of the areas that I'll give a few examples of some of them that I think are really fascinating to me, mostly because it represents how wide ranging the startup world is. And it's will bring us kind of a story circle that we were talking about. The show has all these technologies there. We will, I know, see there's companies that are developing. You have an energy tile. It looks like home tiling for your wall. It's actually a vanadium ion battery. It's a company called Standard Energy, and it's a novel way for energy storage to really make your home be able to take on a lot more of that sort of off-grid technology style. If you want to talk about a different trend, it's not just about improving grids for power and making sure that we can power AI and data centers responsibly and effectively, but how can you make your home more resilient? Well, off-grid technologies like that start to help. That's one. Synergetics is another company that their whole thing is doing corrosion detection. While that sounds very niche in particular, it's preventative. It uses AI for predictive because what it does is prevent corrosion in pipes in power plants. And that's, again, a grid resiliency story, but also a preventative maintenance story. That's one. Another good one, too, is you start to see companies like Glidance. I think one of the most important parts of CES is the design. That design should be made for everyone. Innovation should happen for all. And I only learned this the other day. Glidance is a company that builds autonomous guide robots for low vision or blind individuals. I did not know this until a few days ago. Not everyone qualifies for a guide dog. And so what happens for folks who are trying to get around that might not qualify for one? This is a company that is taking autonomous vehicle technology, miniaturizing it to a robot that is called Guide, that can bring and serve in that role. That's building for more people. And it just showcases that innovation from vehicle tech, which you'll see so much of at CES, can be actually distilled to the individual level for low vision or blind individuals. And I think that's, if you ask me, that's why I do what I do. That's what gets me up in the morning, is these are the type of innovations. How does it help people?
And that's exactly the example when you said that in my mind went like, damn it, I never thought about that. But it's now that you said it, it's so clear that you can take that technology, put it together for a specific goal, and all of a sudden you may resolve an incredible problem and help so many people in their disability and mobility and living their life. So I just want to end with this, that CES is not just a place where you can kind of see the future, but it's also where you have many brain thinking together and say, if I take that, and that, I go to the next level that maybe I didn't think about this morning when I woke up. But you can do it. And synergy is the word.
It is. It brings people together, and it brings ideas and innovation together. The convergence. So that's why it's dive in. You'll learn more than you'll learn so much more than you even expect to, and that's why I love the show. I love learning new things, and I don't think there's a better place than in person at CES.
And with that, we're going to close this conversation, leave it open to many more, even in between. I mean, you're always welcome to stop by in my show, Redefining Society and Technology, if it's not about the event. I mean, I just love talking to you and kind of think about what is possible. And I keep thinking CES, it's exactly that as well. So 7 to the 10th of January, Las Vegas. No other place probably could host that, I guess, not now. And I'm looking forward. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll do a recap once you recover from CES and all that it takes to put it together.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you so much for having me on again, Marco. It's always a pleasure.
Brian, a pleasure.
Cheers.
And for everybody, stay tuned. There'll be more conversation on location with Sean and me, Marco. And next time, probably Sean will join us as well. So, Brian, thank you so much. Everybody subscribe, stay tuned, and we'll be back with more stories from other events around the world. Take care.